Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. I'm joined as always by my co-host Glenn. How you doing, Glenn?
I am well, Dave.
Good to hear it. Good to hear it. Well, let's jump right into some of the questions because I think we have quite a few. A couple interesting ones at least, anyway.
Let's hope a couple of them are interesting. Yeah. Let's see how this first one goes. Vera Tenuta says, given that you have enough local hardware to make your own personalized models of your own code, why don't you feed all the code you've ever written into a personalized model and use that to sort of inform what you're doing? It'll be, by necessity, it'll be more accurate with your specific workflow.
Well, I could be wrong about RAG data, but my assumption is that when you attribute data and you give it to the model and say, I want you to use this as your background context when answering questions, that it has to fit in the context window. And I've written a lot of code, so my code would not fit in the context window, except for some of the really big ones now, which, I've heard rumors about Grok being 128 kilobytes or 128 kilotokens, I should say, and Gemini being in the same league or bigger than that even. And I haven't put that to the test recently, but at the time I tried it, the context windows were much smaller. I've got a PDP expert I built on ChatGPT, and it's got all the documentation, all the manuals, and I found that, no, it's way more information than it can ingest in the context window. So that may change as that model evolves, but at the time I tried it, it kind of overwhelmed it. So that's kind of why.
A lot of the code you've written is in your code. It's Microsoft's code, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking of my source code for the folder, and it's huge. I mean, I've written a lot of stuff that never saw the light of day, too. So.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah. Sorak 311 says, why is there no software to implement two mouses or two mice? Two mouses?
Two mice?
Two mouses on the same computer with both having their own pointer. So I've always wanted that feature. I thought when Windows started to get multi-touch support that it would make it easier for people to create this, but still haven't seen it yet. Is it possible?
No, it is not. Now, there was a Microsoft internal thing called multi-point at one point, and it was, no pun there. And it was set up for the teacher and a student both had their own mouse and could navigate around the screen, but it required a bunch of custom software because Windows itself only has the notion of a single pointer per Windows station. You can have multiple keyboards, and there's only one keyboard stream. You can have multiple mice connected to the machine, but they will all drive the same pointer. So you get one input stream, you get one focus window, you get one mouse pointer, and the mouse pointer drives the focus window. And the whole focus model is one of the reasons that it's non-trivial to just say, now you have two mouse pointers. It's not rocket science. It can be done, but it's not built into Windows, probably due to low demand. And it's a little challenging to do as a third-party app just because of the amount of integration. It can be done, though, with Set Windows Hook and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's complicated, but you can do it with Set Windows Hook. Okay. And probably a couple other 1,000 things, yeah.
Somewhere Raymond Chen goes, what?
Raymond Chen says what? Landlocked says, Dave, have you ever had AI make you a model and output an STL file for 3D printing?
No, I've never done that. I did not know that was possible, but I assume if I Google it, I will be able to find a model that will generate STL files. It'd be nice if I had the equivalent of what I have for VS Code in something like Fusion 360, where I could say, okay, now make a thing, make a box, and make it this big, and now put a hole in the middle, and now thread that hole, and make it purple, and do all the things that you know that you want to do, but I don't know how to drive the software well enough to do much more than making boxes and stuff, so.
Okay. Moonfox says, if I were to ask one question as someone who's also bouncing between Mac, Linux, and Windows, I would ask, what makes your Mac such a daily driver, I guess, for you, as opposed to your Windows or Linux machines?
For me, it was the apps, and for me, the app was Final Cut. And that's what I wound up using a bunch more than anything. And that's really probably the only Mac exclusive application that I use. The rest of my time I spend in Visual Studio Code probably. Well, except for mail and stuff, which I guess I do on the Mac. So now I'm used to the mail client on the Mac, and it kind of sucks you in. Now you have desktop messages, which is a big jump. Once you've got Messenger, or not Messenger, iMessage on the desktop, it's very handy because you don't have to get your phone out. So you kind of get used to that. You get drawn into the ecosystem. But the main reason was for Final Cut. Visual Studio Code, I use a fair bit, but I also use it on the PC. And in fact, right now, oddly, I'm using it on the Mac, but I'm remote SSH'd into my Threadripper because it's got 192 cores, so it builds much faster. So you kind of make use of them all as the scenario dictates. But yeah, for the Mac, it was definitely Final Cut.
So you're using the Mac mail client, but you're not using Safari, I bet?
No, I use Chrome. I tried Safari, and I really like the privacy aspects of Safari because it doesn't snoop on you like Chrome and Edge do, but or not to near the same extent. I forget why, but there were every now and then you get sites. Well, sorry, we don't work with this. I'm like, I just gonna use Chrome because it's gonna work in Chrome. So.
Right. Yeah. YT Wagner M1. Is there a technical explanation for developers to prefer Mac, even if they don't develop for that platform?
Probably the MacBook.
Yeah,
that's what got me
into
the
hardware
whole thing.
piece, right?
Yeah, they made certainly then. I haven't compared to contemporary Windows laptops, but the MacBook 5-6 years ago was so far ahead of the Windows PCs, especially. And then once you got the M1 stuff, they got even a little further ahead. And so it's just a great laptop experience. And to use it, I was always using it as a boot camp machine with Windows. And then I had to edit a video, and they didn't make Movie Maker anymore, and you couldn't download Movie Maker. And so I wound up going to the Mac side to do the video editing, and that's how I got sucked in. But it's because I had a Mac, even though I had no intention to ever run it as a Mac. I just liked the hardware platform, ran Boot Camp, ran Windows on it. Once the M1 stuff started, you couldn't do that anymore. But by that time, I was fully entrenched on the Mac side, I guess. So,
I wonder if the popularity of the iPhone might have to do something too. I'm into the iPhone rather than some Android phone, and that ties into
the integration of your iMessage and stuff, and being able to airdrop files. Like I will take some B-roll with my camera, and I just hit airdrop M2 Mac, and it's on my desktop. And so I can drag it into Final Cut. And that's such a great workflow that it's hard to give that up.
And you were talking about Boot Camp as well. So on the Mac system, you could run Windows software on it. Is that not possible now with the M1 architecture?
You could emulate Windows with Parallels Desktop or something, but at the time you could actually just run. It wasn't emulated. You were just running Windows on the MacBook hardware.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So Boot Camp was not an emulator. It was a set of drivers and stuff that you needed in order to run a decent Windows system on that hardware.
And you can't run the Mac system from a PC, so it's one-way street. Yeah, kids.
You can. I've got Mac OS set up in a VM on my Storinator.
Okay,
but it's not impressively fast, even with the Epic CPU, and there's no GPU acceleration. And so at that point, what am I doing with it besides proving a point? So,
but point proven.
Yeah, I proved the point, whatever it was.
Nobody was asking for you to, but you did it. And my left 9397, apologizing for commenting twice, but I probably didn't pick up the first comment, so no need to apologize. Said another video I happened to watch. This is talking about the super user do or sudo, and it sounds. He says that other user or other video that I watched said that sudo stands for substitute user do, not super user do, because it doesn't have to be used to run a command as the super user, although it often is.
That's a good point. I'm trying to think. If I go into BSD, I added sudo, but it does have SU built in. But I thought SU was always super user. I've never tried, like substitute user Glenn. It probably does work, and probably that's what SU does stand for. So I can't guarantee it. I can't confirm it, but I will accept it as a plausible explanation. How's that?
And I would just further add that no one should ever substitute user Glenn for anything, because, that's just going to cause trouble. Jim Bond has a suggestion here. It says, how about an episode about the difference between 211 BSD and BSD 10 VAX?
Oh, wouldn't both my viewers be pleased?
Jim and the other guy?
Yeah. I guess I would like to do something. Maybe I could show building my benchmark that I have working on the 1134 and on the 1183 and on the VAX and on the Macs. I've got the exact same code compiling on all these different platforms. And the score ranges, well, I'm not going to tell you, but it starts at 240 for the PDP 1134. It starts at 240 dry stones per second. And an Amiga 500 is around 1,000 dry stones per second. And then it just goes up from there. And I've got all the other hardware in there. So I should probably stack rank them, give me an excuse to show the hardware and show the BSD system. So yeah, I think I'll try that.
And that might satisfy 7 viewers. So
yeah, or
2.
maybe 10 if it's getting close to Christmas.
Now you also mentioned the range of that stuff that you have running the BSD. One of them the PDP 1134, and you just mentioned prior to the start of it, you actually have all your machines are actively running and doing stuff.
Yeah, it's
right
a rare
now,
moment here in the shop where everything is working. The shop is basically clean. I got to sit down with an ESP32 and plug in a USB cable and write some code today. So
yeah, nice. How long will it last? I shouldn't have said that. Now it's going to fail.
Well, I had a speaker fail, so I've got a Rocket 7 speaker blowing apart on my bench, but I'll throw that junk away.
Oh, you're going to attempt to repair on it, or?
Well, I took it apart to see what I could do with it, and it's in the power system, and I don't play with 120 volts. There's no fuses. There's nothing I can fix in there without knowledge of power supplies. And for the price of a speaker, I'm just going to chalk it up to that's my second one out of 4 speakers that died. So,
yuck. Okay, SNT Sander. Now we're getting to the cybersecurity stuff that we talked with Rob last week on our Shop Talk episode here. So SNT Sander says a power plant, cybersecurity, and no mention of Stuxnet.
It's where you're on the right end of Stuxnet there, I guess.
That's right. And then Wizardus.
Well, I did ask about overspeeding the centrifuges and stuff. Then that was a reference to Stuxnet. So.
Right. And you did an episode on Dave's Garage a year or 2 ago?
About a year ago, yeah.
Yeah.
It did okay.
It's out there, yeah. Wizardus says, gee, I never thought that hacking might have an upside. Seems hacking promotes employment for anti-hacking and other security experts, as inconvenient as it might be.
But that's like saying vandalism creates a job for guys that got to come and wash it off. And if
you're saying it doesn't?
Well, it's a good book called Economics in a Single Lesson, I think it is. And it talks about the fallacy of a guy comes along and breaks the bakery window with a brick. And he's like, look at all the business. I've got to get the glass guy out here to fix it and the carpenter out to fix the door. I've just generated about $200 in economic stimulus, and why that's not the case. And I'm not going to give that
at the expense of of the business owner. Yeah. So it says, as inconvenient as it might be, have you thought of moving your home automation to something other than the not quite dead Insteon?
I would, but I've got about 80 to 100 devices. And so, yeah, if some home automation company wants to sponsor me and provide new devices and labor to change them, I'm in. But for now, I'll stick with Insteon. And for the most part, they fail at kind of a predictable rate, which is higher than I would like. I'm having some communication issues, as we discussed in that episode, which have gotten better with the phase coupler, but have not been resolved entirely. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You did put a phase coupler in, though.
I did.
Like the next day.
Yeah, I had one here. It just wasn't installed yet. So.
And then Wizardus goes on to say, as you're making a reference about your power usage and that it's hydroelectric power primarily in Washington state. So you're saving the salmon, and Rob quickly took the air out of that one for you.
Well, he had a counter argument, let's say.
Right. Wizardus is going to help you out here too and say, so Dave may not be saving the salmon, but he is getting valid work out of water that would otherwise only keep the salmon happy. So that's a plus, right?
Yeah, and only the lazy salmon that are still way upstream. You really want them coasting on your back? I want the aggressive salmon.
Swim, you damn fish, swim. Yeah.
Which that depends on the time of year, right? The other part of the year, they're coming upstream. So.
Holy cow. Oh, man. Have you ever experienced that?
I've seen it in my own backyard, basically. They stocked a salmon river behind my house. And so I come home one day from work, and there's all these giant red belly salmon that are huge fish, and they're jumping. And I thought, I can't believe they made it this far inland, because I was 40 minutes inland by car. And it turns out, no, they stock them there, and then they lay eggs, and their spawn or fry or whatever they're called for salmon will eventually try to reseek back there as far as they can.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a couple local rivers around here, and one we walk the dog, and there's a few weeks in the year where you cannot take the dog down to the river because it's just dead salmon everywhere. But it's wild when it's full of them coming back. As a guy from Saskatchewan, that's still impressive. And then you see the bear walk across, and you go, oh, holy crap, there's a bear. Yeah.
Saw a bear yesterday, actually. It wasn't a grizzly bear. It was a black bear, but...
Yep. Yeah, I've seen a few of them just walking along the river. That's what they do. Scott Jerial, this is an interesting observation, he says, about Wi-Fi 7. He says he recently put up a unified Wi-Fi 7 access point and was getting all sorts of interference for this 2.4 and 5 gigahertz clients. And he says it's not more than 20 feet away from the AP. Not sure what was going on since I didn't have it. He says, I wonder if the Insteon wireless link are experiencing the same sort of problem at your house. So he says, the interference is preventing them from making a connection to the Wi-Fi. When he shut down the 6 gigahertz radio on the AP, everything immediately worked again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says he's not sure what's going on. He doesn't have an RF scanner, but sure seems that there must have been some wideband harmonics laying over the lower frequency ranges. He said, wonder if you're experiencing anything like that at your house. Said it'd be pretty wild since it's operating in the 900 megahertz range.
Yeah, and I asked a couple of different AIs about this, and one said, oh, yeah, it's Wi-Fi 7. That's what's wrecking your day. And then I asked the other one, it was like, that's not possible. They're totally different frequencies. That makes no sense. And so I don't know which to believe, but the different frequencies makes no sense is kind of what I'm leaning towards, because why would Wi-Fi 7, which is way up at like 6 gigahertz or some really high frequency, why would that interfere with 2.4? Unless it's, I don't know. I'm not an RF engineer by any chance. So
yeah, but he says when he shut down the 6 gigahertz radio on the AP, everything worked again. So
yeah. Confounding. I wish I could explain why, and I wish I could have my 6 gigahertz turned on and not have it, cause problems too.
Yeah. NY, New York Babs wants to know, Dave, does your generator for backup power do all of your sub panels?
Does everything.
Does
the whole thing.
Does everything. Yeah.
So
it doesn't cover anything at my house though, because we were FaceTiming the other night and all of a sudden the lights went black and poof.
Yeah, no like one frame of Glenn into the dark, Gordon. And then it froze.
I thought you had power backup, Dave. How come I'm losing power here 200 miles away? Yeah.
Yeah, so my house has 600 amps of service that comes in onto 3 panels, and those 3 panels distribute to 2 other panels, so there's 5 panels in total. And it adds up to 600 amps of service. And so by code here, you have to be able to supply that 600 amps or selectively load shed. And I don't want to selectively load shed and decide which things I'm going to power and not. So we went with the generator that can power the whole 600 amps. But
okay. Last one here from our little cybersecurity episode. Dude says, hey, what happened? I wanted the Muppets.
Yeah, I know. I actually like that. If I could get that thing to generate like in Final Cut, that was just an add-in, I would do that for an episode or two. And I'm sure 1,000 people else would as well. And it would not be funny anymore.
And that came from, I think it was the night before, we were just having a sort of chat and we started goofing around on the AI. And oh man, we were just splitting our gut laughing at some of the output.
Oh, it was horrific. We did Google VO and I was asking it to do Muppets of Glenn and I gave it a photo of us. And I looked like a white Lawrence Taylor with this bad mohawk.
And your eyes were just like...
Yeah, my eyes were big as crazy.
Bugged. Yeah.
And then our mouths were like big Muppet mouths. And you had, pink stocking hands.
I had like silk gloves all the way past my elbow and you had like mitts on. Yeah. It's like,
it was like 80% Will Smith eating spaghetti, that one.
Yeah. But
then
boy,
what I did is I
took
the image to ChatGPT and I said, convert this image to an image of people as Muppets. And I just got the still frame. And then I took the still frame to Google VO and I said, take this still frame and animate it for, whatever it was, 8 seconds and have them talking and saying this stuff. And we didn't overdub it because it was clearly AI and I wanted it to be obvious. So we didn't overdub it with our voices. But, that's how I generated it. So I had to generate the still from one service and then have the video generated from another service.
And it was neat too, because when we do this episode, I'm looking straight ahead, you're looking straight ahead, and that's how it's pitched. But when the AI did it, it had our own home backgrounds on it, but it had us look to each other all the time as we were sitting in the same room, which was a weird thing. I'm like, why is he looking over all the time? Because Dave's not over there. He's in front of me. Yeah. So now we get into you did an episode in Dave's Garage here about the SharePoint hack. So quite a few questions that came up to that. Some of them, I hope I got some of the redundant ones out here. But Tim Connor says, what the heck is SharePoint and why is it everywhere? He says, I ask the same thing all the time. It's usually my job interview questions. What collaboration tools do you use? And he says, unless I'm leaving a dumpster fire for myself. So,
well, sir, I'll be honest. I've never used SharePoint. I've never seen SharePoint. I'd never talked to anybody about SharePoint. I barely heard of SharePoint until I heard of this hack, and I started reading about it and looking into it. And essentially, it's their whole internal internet, not internet, but intranet. System for documents, managing, finding. So imagine you have a company and you've got HR documents and legal documents, and teams can submit their documents through Teams and stuff. And so it's like where the stuff goes inside the company instead of the old days where it was just all dumped on a UNC share somewhere. And so you can see there's pretty good demand for that because everybody's got that basic problem to solve. And then there turned out to be a big hack. So.
Okay. Fred Scholl says, does the SharePoint box have to be exposed to the internet in order for this to be a problem, this hack?
Yes. Unless somebody tried to attack it internally. You know, if there was a bad actor internally and they could see the box internally, perhaps they can attack it that way. But otherwise, it's got to be on the net. Yeah.
Okay. And then, Sam the Sham says, wasn't this hack issue limited to the on-premises deployments?
Yes. I believe I said so much.
Okay.
Or as much.
And then, Gerowin says, on-term solutions still have their merit, especially in situations where ownership of your data is important, such as classified DoD networks, hospitals, all that stuff. Oh, where's this? Oh, there we go. Remember a while back when Microsoft's own Exchange service got breached and exposed all sorts of government accounts that were using their cloud service?
Nope.
Nope. Don't remember that?
Nope. We were on vacation.
Yeah. That's Family Guy, is it?
Family Guy, yeah.
Yeah. Diesel Geek. People still self-host SharePoint?
Yeah, and for the reasons Glenn kind of just touched on there from the previous question, if you're a doctor's office, maybe you don't want to upload your patient records. Maybe you can't, under the HIPAA laws in the U.S., without patient consent, upload your records to a third-party site like Microsoft. So you might be obligated to keep it locally in your company business area. I don't know all the regulatory requirements, but I can see where there are going to be some industries where it's got to be on-prem, and that's...
Yeah. And then again, Wayne Arnold says, why would an intranet application like SharePoint be vulnerable to outside internet exploits?
Oh, because they leave a public port open so that employees can get it from the road, or, you know, you can get it from the joint office without a VPN between them and stuff. So,
and well, the other thing I think, again, I'm not knowledgeable on this stuff much at all. I mean, we've got SharePoint at work. I don't set anything up. I use it. But again, a lot of that stuff draws from files that are on our OneDrive system. So it's in the cloud and then through SharePoint on our corporate system. So there would be a possible exposure at that level as well, right? I mean, that's more of a OneDrive thing.
Yeah,
it's connected
I don't know if
to the internet.
But
Yeah. And then Joe Hamlin, who the hell runs SharePoint facing the internet? I'd be fired so fast if I let that happen. I work for a global aerospace and defense outfit, so our standards are a bit strict. Yeah.
I think it starts, you know, you put stuff on there and then you share it out for good reasons. And then all of a sudden you start putting more stuff on there. Now you're putting legal documents, you're putting contracts, and maybe your security policy wasn't as well thought out from day zero as it should have been because you didn't anticipate putting really sensitive stuff on there, but now you are. So it's probably a mismatch of requirements and the reality of what you're storing. I think I would guess that you're fine putting it in the, this is like a really strong endorsement. I can
not
tell.
Not a guarantee.
It'd be all right, I guess, if you uploaded your stuff to SharePoint. Yeah, I'm very hesitant to endorse it, tacitly. But if it were me, I would probably trust uploading it to the cloud over having it local, because I feel like local has actually more attack surface than it does if you don't host it yourself.
Right, yeah. And then Andrew English goes on to say, is it so that we've got it to the on-prem stuff, does it also affect Microsoft, the 365 SharePoint servers?
No, I believe those are auto-patched.
Oh, right. That's the difference. Yeah. Yeah. But when they discovered this error, well, I guess when they discovered it, they fixed their stuff and then said, hey, the rest of you guys, you got to fix your own stuff, right? And here's how.
I don't know the timeline. It was all within a couple of days, so they were working hard, I think.
Yeah. FK 28239. So SharePoint Online was vulnerable at some point. Do we know if it was exploited?
Not that of my knowledge. Not that I could find.
Okay. And then Rev Biker Big D says, how does this apply to our home and kids' computers? Which again, there's a whole bunch of people who, again, some know lots about SharePoint and they're experts in it. Others have heard of it. Some don't know and what do I need to worry about? So your home and kids.
Yeah, and a lot of people may not realize that it's SharePoint. They might be like, what a stupid episode. I can't believe they're using SharePoint. Now I'm going to connect to CorpNet. They don't know that it's SharePoint there.
Yeah. Yeah. So their home and kids' computers are probably, if you don't know, you're probably not using SharePoint at home. You're
probably not, unless you're using it to connect to work. There's almost no cases that you're going to have it, other than maybe some schools might have, log into this site in order to get your kids or submit your kids' documents for their homework, that kind of thing.
So in that case, would that home or kid computer be vulnerable to anything, or is that more the school's
Yeah, you
side?
wouldn't be at risk,
Right.
but the school might be at risk because their SharePoint and all your children's assignments about Catcher in the Rye could be exposed.
There you go. David Holder again says, thanks, Dave. Does this attack affect IIS users like me, and should I follow to the rule, your recommendations to block the hackers?
That's a big solid. I do not know.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I'm not going to say no because I don't know the relationship between IIS and SharePoint and how they're might be counter exposed. So I'm going to say I don't know on that one. Internet Information Services. Their web server, basically.
Yeah. Dutch user. But question, why do these processes run with admin level? Would it not be safer to run it with lower rights? On Linux, every website can run with its own account without admin rights. Or is this not possible on Windows?
Well, on Linux, you got the issue where you're going to have a group, Docker, for example, a group of users that can run stuff basically as admin by virtue of being in the Docker group for the purposes of Docker. And that's kind of how these Windows accounts work, but they're not full. I guess they're not full admin, but they are full system, which is different. And it gives them right access to the local file systems and stuff that they may need to operate. And long story short, I don't want to speculate on why they need admin rights. I mean, all the code I write, unless I'm in the kernel or whatever, doesn't need admin rights usually. Why an app like that? Well, I guess if it's trying to manage quotas independent of the operating system, enforce its own quotas and storage limits, things like that, I'm guessing at this point. But
Avatharb B. Blocking port 80 is the R word. It is not a fix, not a workaround. It is blocking your internet access port. Typical micro poop non-solution. Well, email attachments aren't safe because we screwed up. We'll just disable all attachments and emails. See? Problem solved. So
yes, if your lock is broken, you hook the hook or you do something else until the lock is fixed. So yes, I stand by that one. Until you fix the server, take it down, block port 80, unplug it, do what you need to do, fix the server, and then put it back up. And don't sit there and cry and scratch your belly and say, oh, it's Microsoft's fault. Even if it is Microsoft's fault, it's not your excuse for leaving it that way.
Yeah, and if you don't want to blame Microsoft, blame Dave, because we used to work for Microsoft.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
I probably had something to do with it somehow.
Oh, I'm sure it was your fault, but you're just not. Yeah. Tommy Ovison, why isn't the operating system preventing this?
It's not the operating system's business. It's not violating any operating system issues or policies and security tokens that they've apparently set up. So the escalation part of this attack, I don't understand particularly well, other than I know it runs in the context of the SharePoint service, which is, I don't know if it's running as full admin. I hope it's not, but maybe it is. But it's certainly got system local access. So
David Gasparoni says, hey, Dave, find your videos always very informative. Recently, I had to work with some automation in Windows and discovered the COM interface system and found it very intriguing. Do you have any insights on it and interesting use cases for it? And thanks in advance.
Love COM. less of a fan of Ole, but COM itself is basically how to take an object that has a vtable, like a C++ object, and package it up and hand an interface off to another process on another machine even, and then say, here's all my interfaces, you can call them as you will, and then the system takes care of when you call, go create a popsicle on one machine, it goes and does a network call and creates it on the other machine, does all the magic. That's kind of my big picture of COM. And then Ole is much, much more complicated because it's for object linking and embedding, which is to put like an Excel document inside of a Word document. And as cool as that technology is, and I worked on it myself, and I even did the stuff that drew the picture of when you had an Excel thing inside of Word. How many times did people actually wind up doing that? And then was it all that bad of experience to have to double click on it to edit the spreadsheet? Being able to go live and have the toolbars all adapt on the fly as your mouse cursor change focus? I've
done that in a few reports that I've done, and I sometimes, I can just edit it in here and I do it, but yeah, I'd rather go to the source file. But yeah, that's my own sort of piece.
It's spectacular that it works at all, but it's very complicated.
And I think on maybe if you got a simple little thing that you've got linked, some small edits inside of there is probably fine. But most of the stuff that I'm doing is bigger sheets and a little bit more complex stuff, or stuff that I just find way easier to modify in the source. Go into Excel to do it and pull it that way.
We had a problem years and years ago where we were at Microsoft. The group admin had taken the master spreadsheet for our team, which had, your name and your level and your salary and your home phone number and everything in there about you. And then she had selected the section of the document that was relevant, like your extension and your name. And she made a little thing and it sent this around to the team. Well, it turns out if you double clicked on it, it would open it up in place with the entire thing present. And she had no idea, no way to know that. But pretty soon everybody figured out that, if I double click on that attachment she sent, it's got everybody's salary in it. So it was kind of a rough little period for there.
Yeah. I think so. Mega Casual says, is SharePoint sort of Microsoft's version of what Lotus Notes was doing? And I think you had said you were a big fan of Lotus Notes.
Me?
Wasn't that you, or is I?
No, I've actually never used Lotus Notes.
Never used
once
it.
in my life.
Okay. Who am I confusing that with?
I must have been at Microsoft the whole time that Lotus Notes was a thing.
Yeah.
So, I used Novell NetWare and I used Lotus 123, but I never used Lotus Notes.
Oh, there you go. So can't answer that. Let's see who do we got next. Oh, Fallout fan. Again, he's just curious. Does Microsoft notify the public of the vulnerability before they have their cloud patched, or do they wait until after?
I don't know. And I don't know what the obligation is to report. And if you are the vendor, is it different? Because maybe it's ethical for them to wait because they're trying to fix it before they tell everybody where the hole is. So it's like, hey, I found a hole in the dam, and if we don't patch it in 3 days, it's going to be a huge geyser. And so you get the kid to stick his finger in the hole, or you just leave it alone and wait and not tell anybody and then hope that in 3 days you can fix it, then nobody else will notice it. There's a bunch of factors in there, and my sense is you should probably fix it before you notify people, but it should be prompt.
So Microsoft probably just blocked port 80 and then fixed it. And then Sorry. Helen Baker says, why on earth did someone imagine a referrer field was a substitute for authentication? Can't say it was considered in design because I designed the referrer field before any authentication mechanism was added.
Yeah, refer does not seem to me as a guarantee of anything other than you came from this page probably, but that doesn't mean much. So,
okay. J.W. Stoke, serialize or decentralize is indeed complex, but why was no fuzz testing done on critical complex code that runs with high privileges?
Fuzz testing. I don't know how it would have solved this issue.
No. It says, and if this exploit combines several vulnerabilities that were already fixed, the inability to fix even the known issues tells a lot about code quality.
Well, that means there's been 2 issues. Yes, it does mean that. Yeah. What you can deduce from the fact that there's been 2 issues is...
What's fuzz testing, Dave?
My understanding is when you take an API and you basically throw bullshit at it and you keep trying different attacks on it by calling it with a whole bunch of different numbers and different... pointers that are valid and not valid, and just see what happens when you do this in a billion different combinations.
Throw it against the wall and see what sticks or penetrates, or yeah.
That's a win-win, really, because if I'm right, I look pretty smart, and if I'm wrong, it's engagement in the comments when everybody corrects me. So.
Subs and likes and engagement. Yep. Ferdinand Zebua. Dave, may I ask for a recommendation? What do you think I should do as someone who really, really cannot afford to buy a new PC right now? And they're running about a 2017 Intel Kaby Lake laptop come this October. So stick with Windows 10 or use the TPM workarounds to install Windows 11?
I'd stick with Windows 10.
Yeah.
I'd take the extended service plan for whatever it is, bucks per year. It's not that expensive, and ride that out and use that to save up money for a newer PC. But by that point, it'll be like 2 years later down the road. And it's like, by then your old PC is very old. So, but it'll give you some time.
Yeah, Skak 3000 says, will it be possible to talk about how you find and patch security problems when you worked at Microsoft? What was the process?
Everything I did was focused on buffer overruns and stuff, but it was really at the API and kernel level. So the kernel stuff I didn't have to worry about. I assume there was people worrying about that for me. Things that happen at a network API, like in the web server, didn't affect me. So my only real exposure was through the operating system shell. And my approach to all security was to assume everything was wrong and broken and an exploit. And just, I made sure that I only held a privilege for the smallest period in Task Manager, as an example, when it has to do something like kill something, it only asserts debug privilege for a few instructions and then takes it away. So even if you hijack Task Manager, you don't, now I've got debugging, permission on this machine. And so that kind of thing was a general philosophy, but I wasn't doing APIs that were out on the public interface other than linking to them. And once you can link to them, I can't really hide much.
So your sort of approach to that was Dave's approach, or was that a team approach or a wider approach?
Yeah, it was Dave's approach until Windows Server or Windows XP Service Pack 3. And I forget if it was Blaster or the Red, whatever it was, but there was a bad worm or whatever came out. And it really kind of gave Microsoft the religion about security. And we spent a lot of time going through the code line by line, looking at, function prologues and whether or not stack overflows were possible within functions, and mismatches between counter bytes and counter characters, just, really obvious things that before you figure, well, it's a bug, it could crash. And now it's like, well, no, it's a bug and somebody could use it to hijack the system. And those are two different things. And we kind of got the religion towards the second way of thinking it, towards Service Pack 3, I would say.
That was which was your ultimate version? Service Pack 4?
What would be my ultimate version?
Well, some of the things someone asked you your best favorite version of sort of Windows was.
NT4 SP6.
There you go. SP6.
It took us a while to get it right, baby, but we did it. So now we're going to get into a series of questions here. And actually, it's funny about that opening you did to the SharePoint hack, the little scramble scene in the war room there. Oh, yeah.
And so this first question that kicks it off comes from someone at Dave's Garage. Oh, that's you. So I think he made the comment, did anyone else notice the guy playing Donkey Kong in the intro clip?
Shit, it's like you're reading my mind, Dave PL, whoever you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the video content for the one machine where the guy's sitting at the console, I'm looking at it. It's Donkey Kong Jr., I think, actually.
Okay. So it's funny because we got a few good things. I just sort of, it's funny. I mean, I watch a thing and I was sort of, again, half paying attention. Oh, it's the opening and this stuff's going on. And it wasn't until after I realized, oh my God, hold on. There's some funky stuff going on here. So few folks were sharp enough to catch it. I was not. I had to get back the second time. Runs on Rust says, there's some wicked odd things in that intro.
Yeah.
He says,
I kept it that way intentionally. So.
Yeah, he says 3 seconds, 4 men standing, 5 seconds, a man in a white shirt seems to spawn from nowhere. 7 seconds. Then there's a man in a blue shirt with a chair going down to the count for the count. 8 seconds. While guy in white shirt appears at the desk. And what is on that monitor? A game? And what is with the real rando black monitor with the goofy aspect ratio and so much wasted real estate? So man, runs on Rust. He just, I don't know how much time he must have freeze framed that sucker because he caught almost every anomaly.
Well, I didn't fool him then, I guess. Eh?
No. John Sandin says, what was that? Was that not War Games on the back wall?
No, it was just I had to generate something with a big virus, the skull and crossbones and the X or the warning sign.
And then William Hayes says 7 seconds in, he says, AI always has someone biffing it in the office. Does that happen often in modern offices?
I don't know.
And it reminds me, again, that night that you and I were, or you were goofing around. I was just laughing my ass off with all that AI stuff that you're feeding in there and those things it was generating. And there's that one picture you have, the Simpsons view of you, myself, and Rutger. Right. And you took that and put it in, and it generated something where basically Rutger and I got into a fight, and and then we all ran away. And I think you mentioned that Rutger was quite offended. He's like, I would never do that. Like, I would never,
Yeah, he was surprised.
Fighting stuff. You and your, fighting all the time.
Yeah, he was surprised being, I don't know if it's a European or a Dutch or Netherlands thing, but he was surprised that if I was going to make a video, I would just do it of him punching somebody. Like, why would you do that? It's got to be
violent for some reason, but
I said, well, Americans in cartoons, it's an ancient tradition of Tom and Jerry and all, you go back far enough, all the cartoons are basically somebody really wailing on somebody else, whether it's Coyote and Roadrunner or Tom and Jerry or any of those, or Sylvester and
Elmer Fudd and Bugs or whatever.
Yeah. Somebody's going to get blown up or punched.
Yeah, so. And when it's that prevalent in your cartoons in your formative years, it kind of sticks, I guess, and becomes a thing. The second last one here, Christian Stoika says, these AI-generated B-rolls are becoming something, or are they A-rolls?
That one's a B-roll.
That's B-roll. That night we had so much fun looking at those dumb videos that it was generating. Last one here, Dave, and then I'll give it back to you. WG Long II, or Long was just at Costco in Indiana, and they had a spiral light like you have in the background. I think it was white color only. Have you seen it?
Ooh.
You haven't seen that one?
Mine came from Home Depot, but I have seen the Costco one. It has crossbars in it, which shouldn't preclude you from doing a lamp exactly like mine. So I am going to do an episode on mine at some point, and I will build it based on the Home Depot one because I have a spare, but it should work in any spiral lamp. It's not rocket science. You still might have to figure out fishing the wires slightly differently from what I have to on my particular model, but the concepts will all apply, and the software will work the same and everything else.
Yeah, and that's it. So again, I think the show, this shop talk thing that we do on Dave's Attic comes from questions from the videos on Dave's Garage and these episodes on Dave's Attic. So if you got a question in the comments, you put a question mark in it. That makes the first filter, and we pick from there. And with that, Dave, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us out here in the shop today. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, you are among a small minority of users, and I thank you very much. So join us next time right here on Shop Talk. See you then. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.